Well, we're graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form, and we know that slope-intercept form is y equals m, where m is the slope, x is the independent variable, the domain, plus b. But when I look at these two equations, I only see a constant. I only see maybe this value for b, y equals 5 and 2y equals 1. I don't see anything about a slope or even an x value. And so what does this mean? Well, these are going to be functions. They're called constant functions because they're a horizontal line. They will actually pass the vertical line test, as we're going to see in a moment when I graph a couple of these. But they're going to just be a horizontal line. I have no slope. I got a zero slope. I don't even have an x value. Now, we're going to go on the last video that I did. I used some graph, a little symbol of a graph paper. This time we're going to graph it on the calculator. But I can see in this equation over here on the left, y equals 5. Well, I'm in good shape there. I got y by itself. But on this equation right here, I got 2y equals 1. And in order to graph this, I'm going to have to get y by itself. Well, this is 2 times y. So if I divide both sides of this equation by 2, I'm going to end up with y equals 1/2. Now, join me over here on a TI-84 calculator, and we're going to graph both of these, y equals 5 and y equals 1/2. And we're going to see that we're going to create constant functions. All right, I'm over here on the calculator. Let me clear out this history here. And we've got 2 graphs that we're going to create here on the graphing calculator. And I'm going to go in here to y equal, and I'm going to clear out what I got right here. And if you remember, we had 2 equations, linear equations. One was y equals 5. Now, before I graph this, I think I remember -10. Okay, everything looks okay there. All right, and so I'm going to go in here to the graph, y equals 5, and I see a blue line, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the slope, there's the y-intercept at 5, and you can see that this y equals 5 is just a horizontal line. It is called a constant function, and if I were to apply a vertical line test, drawing vertical line test lines through this, I'm only going to cross this graph one time with a vertical line, and so it is in fact a function. Now I'm going to go in here and graph the second one, and I'm just going to graph it underneath it. I'm going to use y2 this time, where y equals 1/2, 1 divided by 2. And we're going to go over here and look at the graph of this. And shazam, there's a red horizontal line coming through where y equals 1/2, x is 0. I have no values of 0 in these graphs. And so here's a couple of graphs of some constant functions where we have a 0 slope. 0 times x is going to be 0. We're just left with the constant or the y-intercept. Y equals a constant number, and therefore we have a constant function.